Hi, and thanks for joining me again today. Today we're going to speak about goodness. Goodness being a fruit of the Spirit, the evidence of the Spirit of God in the life of a believer. And what does goodness actually mean? And again, if you heard the saying, some will say, well, you know what, they are a really good person. And again, their judgment on that has everything to do with the person's actions and, you know, how they conduct themselves and how they treat others. And this is where, why people say, wow, they're a really good person, a decent person. And, the goodness that flows out from this person, it's speaking about being intrinsically good. In this sense here, it describes what originates from God. And this is why it's described as a fruit, the evidence of the Spirit of God. And this kind of level of goodness is saying here that its origin is from God, that is residing in the life of a believer. And it's up to us to allow this goodness to flow from us to humanity. And this is the decision that we make. Do we want to walk in the flesh or do we want to walk in the Spirit? And when we walk in the Spirit in this area of goodness, it's a real blessing, not only for God when He sees this, but also for humanity and those around about us. And it's a good thing to be good, amen, to respond in goodness. And so it actually means empowered by God in the life of a believer. And so there's this empowerment that God has, done inside of us, that He works through us, and it all happens through and works through faith. And so I just want to read directly out of the concordance here what goodness actually means, and I find it rather interesting what it means. And so just bear with me as I go through this, just maybe actually exercise a little bit of long-suffering here just for a moment. But it actually means here kindness in actual manifestation. And so, we can say that we're Christian and believe that we're good, kind people, but the evidence of that is actually in the doing, not in the saying. And this is what this goodness here means, is that the goodness of a person compels them into action, to actually do something, not just talk about it. And so it goes on to say here that it's speaking about virtue equipped for action. In other words, here it is again, there's action, is doing. And so the goodness is identified in the doing. And it also speaks about a bountiful propensity both to will and to do what is good. And so, so far, all of these are pointing to, love in action. And this is why I believe that in Galatians 5:22 it says about the fruit of the Spirit is love. As I mentioned before, that love being the fruit, and in that fruit we see manifestations of love, and one of them again here is goodness. It also means goodness producing a generosity, and again it is love in action without a question of doubt. And it also means being in a godlike state, and so it's about doing good and being good, because it's who lives in us, and it's when we choose to walk in the Spirit, we're no longer fulfilling the lust of the flesh, and this walk in the Spirit leads us to walk in the light as God is in the light. And so therefore, when we walk in the light, the decisions that we make, the words that we speak, the actions that we take, all reflect the goodness of God. And if any time there's been ever a time that the world needs to see this, it's now. And so goodness is a fruit of the Spirit, the evidence of the Spirit of God in a person's life. Anyway, be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.